I get it.
Why do you think that we say that? Do you
Hot
think
mic?
Do you think like in the 40s they were like, oh, time to move? Oh no, that is a hot mic.
It could be the thing they did when they overheat. I don't know. I don't know the history of it.
Darn it! I needed these hands for my woodworking business.
So we're on episode.
I worked 3 jobs here in the 1940s.
Episode 190. That's a pretty good.
Nobody likes a
stretch, right?
braggart.
I'm just saying.
You know what? I'm going to move the camera a bit.
Well, I think it's great.
Okay.
That seems like a good
All right.
location to me. But.
All right. I just thought I would. All right. Let's do it. Okay. You guys got all this space behind me, so you can warn me when a killer shows up.
It's better than window.
Better than
Sour
window.
Patch Kids cereal. Okay.
I only just remembered to tell him about that today.
Okay. All right. So on the stream here, we got a mention for Sour Patch Kids cereal. What I don't remember is I feel like we talked about Sour Patch Kids
I think
cereal
you and I were in a
on
store.
the podcast.
No, I think you and I were in a store, and I said, Sour Patch Kids, what's that about?
Really?
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about it on the podcast?
No, I don't think so.
I thought we did. But it sounds disgusting.
You
It
might be thinking of
sounds-
your other podcast you do, Kellogg's Review.
Yeah, my Kellogg's review. Well, I'm originally from the Kellogg hometown.
That's true,
Battle
Michigan.
Creek, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they got Kellogg's in their veins.
We do, yeah.
So.
When I was a kid at recess,
Uh-huh.
everybody who knows me knows this story. Sometimes we'd go out and we'd sniff the air and see, oh, what are they making today? It was often Fruit Loops, which is a post cereal, but
Really?
It happened.
You just knew?
yeah, you could.
All right.
The whole town would smell like it.
Cool.
You can't buy that kind of memory, folks. Speaking of memories, Eric's been playing a lot of Pac-Man. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody. What's your stream? Where they find you?
Dust versus Tweak.
Dust versus Week.
Okay.
I popped in and watched it's just a mad dash of
Yeah.
Pac-Man. I couldn't understand how you were doing it,
Yeah.
how you were turning as quickly as you were.
Yeah.
You seemed superhuman.
Thank
you
you.
seemed superhuman
Thank
playing the game of Pac-Man.
This Pac-Man Championship Edition,
Yeah.
it's great. It's I mean, you saw it. It gets so fast. It gets like Tetris, but it peaks at 50. The way they do it is you have like your 4 ghosts that are in the center.
Okay.
And they just go around. And then there's like sleeping ghosts. And when you pass them, they start forming a train behind you. So when you get a power pellet, you just turn around and eat that train.
Yeah.
Like for a huge combos. But it gets pretty intense when you have like a long train with a long tail.
Yeah.
But then you got those wild ghosts as well.
It's too much.
I do think that the wild ghosts are trying to kind of like lead you to like a optimum path.
Yeah, you
But-
said that. You said that on the stream.
Every now and then I felt like they were getting a bit more aggressive than I was expecting.
They
for
seemed
that.
a little, yeah.
So
They weren't always working with you.
No.
You keep talking about Pac-Man while I close the window.
Okay. What else about Pac-Man? It's just it's Pac-Man for the Burnout crowd, the Burnout series crowd. Not like I guess maybe the Burnout crowd. Now I've dug myself in a hole. You left the mic for 2 seconds. It's Pac-Man for those who like our arcade racers. If Sonic the Hedgehog got trapped in the Pac-Man maze, so
I want to know, and this probably isn't the right venue for it, but I want to know: is there actually a difference between Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man, like classic?
Ms. Pac-Man was like apparently like another company made like a bootleg, and the American company that was producing Pac-Man liked it so much they just took it and reskinned it and named it Ms. Pac-Man.
Oh.
And I think some people think that it is a more solid version, a more playable and enjoyable game than Pac-Man. Like it just has a few fixes.
I've always felt that way, but I
Yeah.
don't know why. The pizza shop I used to go to, Pizza Sam's, doing a lot of shout-outs
to Pizza
Battle
Sam,
Creek
yeah.
today, but they had one of those ones where it was like there was a seat on either side, it was a glass top table, and Pac-Man was like inset in the table.
Yeah.
So you'd kind of like reach your hands under, grab the joystick,
Right.
and like
Yeah.
I loved it.
All right.
I loved it. I spent a lot of coins there. That and Galaga were like my old school
Yeah.
arcade favorites.
Yeah, Galaga's a big one.
But of
They-
course-
they still put out Galaga and Pac-Man. I guess.
yeah?
I think it's like every 5 years they'll just put out another set of arcade versions of Pac-Man and Galaga, or Miss Pac-Man and Galaga.
Let me ask you this:
Uh-huh.
which is the best arcade game?
Ever?
Yeah,
I don't know.
because for me it was always X-Men, The Simpsons,
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles,
Right.
And I think I've got to give it to The Simpsons.
I've thought about like if I could pick 5 arcade games to put in like a furnished basement, what would they be? And the Simpsons one would definitely make
Yeah.
it. I think I'd have to have Crazy Taxi in there.
Yeah.
And I know it's not the classic one, but after playing some Street Fighter 3, the Third Strike one, it's real good. So
Yeah.
I could see myself taking that one, even though it's a weird one.
I think my sentimental favorite will always be Simpsons, but
Yeah.
Time Crisis 2
Oh yeah.
is aces.
I mean, I probably would want Pac-Man in there somewhere because that's one that like I went to an arcade in Christmas time.
Yeah.
And like I spent some money and time on all these other machines, and I stunk at Donkey Kong. I got my butt kicked at Street Fighter 2.
By me.
Yeah. And
as am Bison, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true. And I did a few other stuff, but like Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man, whichever one I played, was the only one where I got like any traction on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you did. You beat me as who was I? Was I just Ryu?
I think so. I think so.
That's rough.
And M. Bison
all right.
took it.
Let's start recording episode 190.
I'm ready.
Welcome to episode 190 of the All the Books Show, recorded at the David A. Howe Public Library, where we talk book news, author news, and literary news. I forgot the third thing we talk about. I say it every week. I've said it for 190 episodes. Though at the beginning, I didn't. At the beginning, we didn't even have a title.
Really?
We were the
That's
untitled.
True. The untitled, official untitled podcast of the David A. Howe.
Yeah, we were a mess.
Good to know we weren't.
We did a whole segment. The very first episode, you and I did a segment where we were coming up with a sequel for a book that never got a sequel.
That is still a great. We never revisited it, but it was a great.
We did
segment.
We recorded this bit for 20 minutes, and then we realized 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea did have a sequel.
It has a couple of sequels. Yeah.
So we just had to cut the whole thing out. It was such a waste.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but we learned.
Yeah,
we learned something.
We also do author interviews.
That's true. We've been on a hot streak lately.
Yeah.
This week we're pleased to welcome
me.
No,
You're pointing at me.
I just was you set it up.
Okay,
I
go
wanted
ahead.
you to
do it
take
again.
it.
Do it again.
We're pleased to welcome
Martha Wells.
Martha Wells, recently nominated for the Hugo again.
Yeah.
She's been nominated and won in the past.
As well
And so we had a great chat with her. So we're going to get into that a little later. We're also going to go over some of the Hugo nominations. We're not going to dive too deeply into that because we'll do a real in-depth
winners.
spotlight when the winners come out.
August.
But we'll let you know about this right now, so you have some time to read them ahead of time.
I'm Eric Mickles.
I'm Nick Gunning.
Let's get to it.
Yes. Here is the sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea I would like to pitch you.
All right.
Just kidding.
Here we go.
All right, let's open the books. Let's check out the bookmarks.
Time for the bookmark.
See where we are.
Bookmark.
You, me. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Do it.
Okay. I'm not ready. No, I'm kidding. I'll go first.
Okay.
All right. So what did I read this week?
That is the question.
I finished Ghost by Jason Reynolds.
Ooh.
Different type of ghost.
Oh. I read Ghost by Raina Telgemeier.
Different also another different type of ghost. Yeah.
Different.
Ghost by Jason Reynolds. This is book 1 of 4, I believe, of his track series for like a younger audience. I had this for our 8th grade book club.
Okay.
And in retrospect, I probably would have used it for the 7th grade.
Oh. It just played younger.
It reads a little bit younger.
Okay.
It's an easier read. It's a sports one. It's about a boy who he's kind of got a rough life. He joins a track team, starts feeling part of a team, and there's 3 of the other characters that are part of these newbies on this team. Each get their own book after this, but it's not a complicated read. There's some darker stuff in there, but it's
and Jason Reynolds is Long Way Down, right?
Long Way Down.
Edgar Award
He wrote the
and
Miles Morales Spider-Man
That's
YA
right.
book.
Yeah, I didn't get into that. But
has a few other series. So, but yeah, it was good. It was enjoyable.
Okay.
It opens with him as a small child. Him and his mom get chased out of the apartment by their dad, who's shooting at them.
Wow.
And that's how he learned he could run. And so
it's a good time to find out.
Yeah, there's just not too much plot in the book. It's just he joins the team. There's never really there's some lessons he learns, but there's not too much to overcome other than like his own attitude towards it.
Right.
So the kids didn't really like it. But there you go.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Yeah.
What are you reading for 7th grade?
So 7th grade now we're reading The Outsider? No, we just read The Outsiders. And now
Kwame
we're reading
Alexander?
Crossover.
Crossover. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
For more on that, check out our whole spotlight on Kwame Alexander that staff member Malik did with us. Malik's going to be back later this month because
he's a poet.
Yeah, he's got this whole like poet background. He does competitions,
he writes poetry,
he reads and writes it. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about a couple different things later in the month.
He's gonna be our ringer since I am the handicap to our poetry episode.
Well, I mean, I'm no expert. I try to read some every April because it's poetry month, but it's not a go-to for me.
What do April poets bring?
May showers.
Wow. Yeah, I dropped that.
Woo, boy.
Yeah.
All right, is that it for you?
No,
Oh,
that was only one book.
I don't know. I can't keep track.
I read The Wild Robot by Peter Brown.
Yes.
I don't really know why it made you so sad. Probably because there's a little baby in
Really?
it. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very, I don't know.
Yeah. Our children's librarian apparently could not handle how sad this book was.
It ruined Kate. It's an upsetting book. I mean, the robot just sort of finds himself on an island and doesn't know what to do, and then kind of makes a life for itself, and then things start changing, and it's I mean, it's kind of like when an animal is sad because they don't understand what's happening. It's it's the same concept in there that
There's
you're just like, you just want to go in and just hug that little robot. There is a sequel, which I've not read yet, but I was a fan of the first one. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. Again, I was like, oh, here it comes. Here comes the really sad thing.
Yeah.
And it never really got too sad. You've
Yeah.
never seen the
I
Iron
forgot to take
Giant.
into account that you have a heart of stone.
Heart of Steel.
Oh,
Caves of Steel.
Steel Heart by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Thank
Good
you.
pull.
Yeah. A little free association there, free of charge, everyone.
But yeah, I like The Wild Robot.
Yeah.
It's easy to recommend. I read this to 4th grade when we did our Read Across America.
Yes.
I read the first 5 chapters,
Yep.
and they apparently the teacher informed me the whole class read and picked up this book.
That's a straight up miracle.
So-
I think basically you should just resign.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you've peaked. You know,
Yep.
walk out while you're on top.
So, but I mean, they're 4th grade, and it does read pretty young.
Yeah.
So I think this is a pretty easy
All right for 4th grade.
recommendation. Kids can handle this sadness a little bit more than adults with children of their own.
Interesting.
All right, I read all new X-Men, a bunch of them, by Bendis.
Yeah.
I was doing my best to finish all the Bendis X-Men I had, so I could be done with it, and I did.
My memories of that series is that it started really strong and then was just kind of like.
Yeah, I don't care for it so much. For people who care or don't care,
Yeah.
too bad.
Yeah. Tell them.
My podcast.
Tell them.
It's our podcast.
We share it.
I informed some people that you and I co-host this equally at a round table.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah,
That's
So
great.
a round table for 2.
That's great. I'm the director of the whole library.
Okay.
But I'm just saying for context.
I'd like to see what kind of library you can direct without the youth services.
Huh. Yeah, let's figure it out.
No.
Oh, sorry, I
Oh,
misunderstood.
jeez. So Hank McCoy, the Beast,
Yes, the Beast.
of the present day, uses time travel to get the original 5 X-Men and brings them back to the present.
Yeah,
so that
it's-
maybe they can help. It's
a
know what
flawed
his-
concept,
Yeah,
it is.
I don't know what his plan is.
Yeah.
And everything. So anyway, this.
Look, I like the classic
Yeah.
team and I like time travel, so
Yeah.
you know,
What hurt this even more for
Tell
me,
me.
besides Bendis' dialogue?
Tell me.
Is that he's writing X-23 in this.
Oh.
And I've read X-23 books, and she like the one thing you have to do with her in all those other books is she just speaks in complete sentences.
Oh.
And he doesn't do that.
Oh.
It's as soon as she started speaking with abbreviations, I'm like, the heck is this?
Wow.
So I was mad about that. There was a fun trip, I guess, where they hang out with Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Miles
That
Morales.
was a fun one.
But
I think that was actually the first Miles Morales I read.
it just wasn't great. Can I get
Yeah.
maybe emotional? I don't know.
Ooh.
I read a whole bunch of other Ultimate books I had to read.
Wow.
Finished Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate FF.
I feel like the Ultimates are like your touchstone. They're
Yeah.
like your.
Well, that's why I
They
wanted to. I
transport
read.
you.
I read Ultimate End,
Oh.
which is like the last 5 issues of the
Yowza.
Ultimate Universe, right before
Yeah.
Secret Wars destroyed them.
Uh-huh.
When I first got into comics,
Yeah.
I was reading like older issues of the X-Men from like the 70s, but it was right around the time where I could buy all of what was out of Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man and then like keep up with them and the Ultimates. And I had those on like subscriptions.
Wow.
So every month I got like the new issue in the mail and I loved them. And I read them for a while and I stopped because the whole line kind of took a downward spiral. But I got back into it and realized there had been some good stuff. I liked Robert Kirkman's Ultimate X-Men. Anyway, this is all to say Ultimates was very important to me, and I liked a lot of stuff in there, and I still hand Ultimate X-Men over to people if they're like, I want to read X-Men. What's a good thing? I'm like, here you go.
Interesting.
But this ending is just so nothing.
Oh.
It's just so...
That's not where I thought we were headed.
No,
I
yeah,
was
it's
not
just...
prepared.
It's incredibly embarrassing it's such a whimper of an ending for something that was pretty important for Marvel, for myself, for lots of readers.
Yeah.
I mean, the MCU movies owe a lot to the Ultimate Universe in
That's
general. The Avengers movie is basically the second run where the team just joins up with S.H.I.E.L.D. and fights aliens. So it's too bad. It's sad. I might go back someday and reread like Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man, but there's definitely points now where I'm like, this is it. I'm stopping here.
Yeah.
So
you know what started with great promise and then promptly became a sloppy mess? Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that whole thing, and
we have it in the collection, folks.
So
you don't have to take my word for it.
There was good stuff in there, but yeah,
that was LeVar Burton who said that.
Oh, right.
I just didn't want to take credit for it.
But yeah, Ultimate Fantastic Four never really like soared. So
no, it didn't. It didn't.
Also, I'm reading. I think I mentioned this before. I'm reading *The Lady of the Lake* by Andrzej Sapkowski. Book 5 of the Witcher series. So I had started it, but then put it down for a long time. And I just picked it up.
Witcher will be having a barbecue. Come over.
Yeah.
JFK having a barbecue with the Witcher.
The Witcher's next door.
Yeah, the Witcher.
Neighbor, yeah.
Yeah. Come on up to Hyannisport. We will be having a barbecue.
We will be happy to have you.
Me Witcher is Sue Witcher.
That's what I would say.
I don't know. I don't know. I've had a lot of Sour Patch Kids cereal, and I'm just having a good time.
Also, I finished season 2 of The Wire.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
There you go. America's greatest television show.
About 10 years too late. Welcome.
Oh.
Welcome to the party.
This is 2003, I think season 2 is. So, a lot of people in it.
Okay.
Holly from The Office. She's on it in the second season.
Mm-hmm.
That might be it.
Okay.
No, there's a lot of other
You're
people.
not really selling it, but okay.
No, it's good. It's a show that never really, it doesn't do anything bombastic or showy. It's not a showy series. It's just good, and it's just thoughtful, and, dialogue isn't there to, waste time or anything. So
it's beloved.
Yeah.
The show is, cherished.
Yeah. It's just not, if you watch, there's not, crazy. There's action moments, there's gunshots, but it's never done in a way to be exciting, I guess.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
If there's gunshots, if there's there was a gunfight between two gangs in one of the episodes, and it's not done in a way that makes you go oh, this is an action-packed episode. It's to show you this is bad.
Okay.
The people shooting are just shooting wildly. There are victims who are just in their house who get shot through the window, and it's just to show you that this stuff is real and not necessarily visceral, exciting. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the people they're trying to go after in the second season aren't necessarily as exciting as the first season. But there's some sad stuff that happens. So anyway, second season of The Wire.
Yeah. There it is.
Join me in 2019. Oh, this is 20. Join me in 2020 for my review of The Shield.
Season 3 of The Shield. Wow.
No,
okay.
I'm not going to watch The Shield.
I think you better. My dad loves The Shield.
Oh, really?
If that counts for
That's
anything.
with the thing.
The Shield and The Honeymooners. Not together. It's
Right.
just those are two of his favorites.
Okay. The Thing is in that, right?
The
What's
Thing,
his name?
yeah.
Michael Chiklis?
Chiklis.
He's
yeah.
Shield, yeah.
Also from The Commish.
He seems like a very
He was in The Commish.
exhausting actor to watch.
Huh.
He's on Gotham, and whenever he's on, I'm like, I get it. You're tough. You got
Boy.
a gravelly voice.
Shock jock over here. Look out.
You're right. Here I am critiquing.
I don't want to get in the crossfires of this. Boy.
All right. Why don't you tell us what you've been reading?
I'm afraid you'll yell at me.
What?
Okay, sure. Well, you know what? I'm going to start because it is Poetry Month, and so we'll start with Uncle Nick's Poetry Corner because I read 2 collections.
Are you Uncle Nick in this situation?
In this situation, I am, yes. And I actually do have nephews and nieces, so I come by it naturally.
They don't call you Uncle Tim?
No, they don't. It's insane. Nobody does. I read 2 collections. One by my pal Joyce Carol Oates called Love and Its Derangements.
Do you think she'd be happy if she found out you're just telling people she's your pal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she'd be fine with it.
All right.
We had a good time.
That's true.
I bought her a tuna sandwich.
Yes.
Have you bought Joyce Carol Oates a tuna sandwich?
No.
Then slow your roll.
I was at her speaking engagement.
Did you talk to her?
No.
Then slow your roll.
My wife
Okay.
did.
You're right. She did. Anyway, Love and Its Derangements by Joyce Carol Oates, an early poetry collection from her. She has, I want to say, 10 collections of poetry, as well as plays, novellas, short stories, full-length novels.
And these are
that
happy
will
poems
blow your mind.
about deer.
Some of them actually were. Some
really?
of them were very nice, relationship kind of poems. Not my favorite collection by hers. I've read a couple. So far, my favorite would be Women Whose Lives Are Food, Men Whose Lives Are Money. That's another collection that she's done. But this was pretty good. I like her. I like her style. Sometimes it makes you want to dig
Shout?
a hole and just
yeah.
cover my ears and be like, there is happiness somewhere in the
Kendra
world.
is reading
This was
her
not-
book, Dismember.
Gee.
And it's like dismember, and even the word dismember is split into 3. And I'm like, God.
No, I read High Crimes Area, which was another this is a spooky collection.
Was it?
It was.
What was the one that
was
had like
upsetting.
the doll face?
Oh, yeah.
Dolls will creep you out
Yeah,
under
it's
your
like,
bed and
what
other
was
stories
that
or something.
called?
Yeah.
Night Jaunts.
I,
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I read that one.
Dollmaker?
I liked it. Dollmaker.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Dollmaker.
Oh.
I like that one.
Uh-huh.
I also read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this has won so many awards. Won the Prince Award.
We were there.
We were, yeah. Yeah, so this has been a very popular work. It similar to the Kwame Alexander books crossover and the like. It is a novel written in poetry format. It's different. It was I thought the way it treated the female protagonist and like what she was going through was kind of atypical for how girls in YA tend to be represented. So
Right.
I have to give it props for that. Kind of a slow start. By the end, I was interested, but it took a while.
Okay.
So we'll talk more about it. In
We have
depth
the
when we do
audiobook
our-
as well.
Actually, I listened to a lot of it on audio, and it is read by the author.
Isn't that,
Well, she does a good
Okay.
job. She does a good job.
All right.
So that's it for poetry this week.
No, it's not.
I've got those. That's what I've read.
Oh.
Next, I'm going to be reading Ash and Ember by James
sorry.
Zoller. Jim did a poetry reading here a couple years back. He's also come to talk about Banned Books Week. He's got a
I was
couple.
in his class.
I know. That's right. You were.
Yeah.
I read a couple of his collections. My favorite of his that I've read so far is Simple Clutter. I like that one a lot. It's in our collection. It's on our poetry display if you're interested in that. Let's see. In other non-poetry news, I read a play called Dear Ruth by Norman Krasna. This was a lot of fun. It's about a little teenage girl who starts
Accidentally writing to herself and gives it to someone else, and people think she's friends with that person.
I think that's Dear Evan Hansen that you're describing.
Go on.
No, this is about a girl who is writing, sending like poetry and things to a soldier overseas and pretending to be her big sister. And then the guy shows up and is like, I'm here, let's get married. And the big sister's like, say what? So I liked it. It was pretty funny.
What?
The little sister is the one writing the letters, signing it as her older adult sister.
Oh.
So the soldier shows up and is like, where's Ruth? You know,
Right.
she's like, I'm here. Who are you? And he's
Right.
like, JK, we're getting married.
Okay.
It's fun.
You made it sound like
Hilarity
she was
ensues.
his little sister or big sister.
His little sister does come to visit, but they are not in love.
No, I
It's
know.
not
I'm
that
just
kind
saying
of
that's
play.
what you said it. The way you said it, it was confusing. So now I understand.
Disagree.
Okay. Is it a comedy?
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
It's pretty funny.
Is it a dramedy?
No, I think it's a straight up comedy. I got it from our collection.
Straight
we
up.
we have quite a collection of scripts.
it's true.
Musical librettos and scripts down in the stack. So if you're ever looking,
Mm-hmm.
look no further than the David A. Howe Public Library.
Or your local library if you're in like California.
Those turds. Just kidding. Libraries are great. Go to any library.
Jeez Louise.
I finished Anonymous Girl by Greer, Hendrix, and Sarah Pekkanen. Now, as you recall, their first book, The Wife Between Us, I loved. I thought it was a very twisty, fun thriller. I didn't know what was happening. Some people are like, I knew right away. I didn't. So,
And this one?
but Anonymous
no,
Girl did not do it for me.
I'm sorry.
This is about a 20-something girl who is looking for cash, basically, and slips into this psychological study, and then, of course, things get deeper and deeper.
Crazy.
But I thought it was all very predictable, and like it got to the end, and I was like, well, did I just watch a Lifetime movie? I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
I could use some extra cash. Do you think I should sign up for one of these studies?
Like this one? Yeah, maybe.
Really? Like this
Yeah.
one? All right.
I read a Smallville novel called Speed by
Yeah.
Jeff Gottsfeld and Cherie Bennett. This was pretty impressive. This was, I mean, it's an older book, obviously, because it was when Smallville was
Sure. Yeah.
on.
Lana and Lex are both on the
But
cover.
it all, like, it dealt with, like, race relations.
Oh, wow.
And them doing like a multicultural festival in Smallville, and people like not liking it, and it was just interesting because they never really dealt with social issues in the show.
No.
So it was interesting to see those characters like grapple with that.
Right.
So I was impressed. I was impressed that they managed to do that. That it was approved that they do that.
You say that, but didn't they do an episode where Lana was turned into a vampire?
They did, yes.
So
Yeah,
they were covering some important issues
You're
at
right.
the time.
You're right. If your loved one turns into a vampire.
Was that when they were dating?
Yeah.
Oh,
It
cool.
was. Yeah, that's during the college
Yeah.
month.
All right. Former cast member of Smallville just pled guilty to a crime.
I don't think we want to get into that.
Okay.
But
Former
I
friend.
didn't,
and
actually,
coworker.
I didn't realize that was the
Yeah,
case. But
yeah.
you can Google that, folks. I finished a couple of graphic novels. This first one, I don't. It's garbage. I'm sorry.
Oh, snap.
But it's terrible. It is Supergirl, The Silver Age, Volume 1. And let me tell you why it's terrible, okay?
Here we go. About to have it all explained by Uncle Nick.
Yeah.
Get back in your poetry corner.
No. Uncle Nick's on a tear. Listen, folks. Superman, only surviving person from Krypton,
yeah.
sure. Supergirl shows up, right? And she's like, great, my whole family's dead, your whole family's dead, but now we have each other. And he's like, yeah, great, go to an orphanage. And he sends Supergirl to live in an orphanage because he's afraid that like people will figure out that he's really Clark Kent. And so he just sends
her to an orphanage.
This teenage girl whose entire family and entire world has been killed.
Right.
And he's like, go live in an orphanage, right? And then he's also like, and also you're not allowed to get adopted. Right? So people come and they're like, oh, she seems so nice. Let's adopt her. And she's like, oh, no, these people are going to adopt me. And then Superman will be mad at me. So then she has to make the people think that she's like terrible. She has to do like all these things that make the people be like, we would never adopt a spoiled little brat like you. And then she goes off and like cries. And Superman's like, one day you'll be able to reveal yourself. And that is the entire collection. That's the entire collection. Superman just being like, oh, maybe this time. And then she does something and he's like, no, you're not ready. Back to the orphanage.
How will
one time?
When are these?
Something happens and she goes and prevents it. And Superman's like, people could have seen you. You are banished from Earth. And he banishes her from Earth. Okay? Superman.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
This was the worst collection I have ever read. And I love Supergirl and I love Silver Age comics, but these need to go back to like whatever pit 50s? They were in. Yeah. Supergirl was introduced in like 59. So 59.
Wow.
Yes.
1959?
I know that. And think back to what we were just saying with Mary Marvel.
Yeah.
Mary Marvel solo comics in the 40s.
Yeah.
She's just like, what up? I'm Mary Marvel. You're a murderer. Bam. Punch him right in the face, you know? And no Billy Batson being like, get back to the orphanage, Mary Marvel.
Well, he was an orphan himself.
I know.
So,
jeez.
That'd be rough. Yeah.
So the very last issue in this collection, Superman's like, okay, now we can tell people that you exist. The end. So I never saw a single.
Right.
This was so bad and so stupid.
Sorry, Supergirl. Sorry that Superman made you live in an orphanage.
Yeah. And made it seem like it was her fault. Next, I read.
He's so toxic.
He is very toxic.
That's terrible.
Nobody left this thing looking good. Yeah. Nobody came out.
What about Jimmy
this.
Olsen?
Jimmy Olsen wasn't in it. You know who worked? The mermaids.
Wow.
There was a couple episodes where Supergirl was hanging out with the mermaids. And that was fine because they knew who she was. But,
so you think Jimmy Olsen like dodged a bullet?
Yeah, Jimmy.
He was in every other book, but he's like, I think I'm going to pass.
Jimmy doesn't need this kind of. No,
he
doesn't. I read By Night, a new graphic novel by the folks who write Giant Days.
Giant Days.
And it was very much okay.
Okay.
Nothing like a beloved character shoving a teenager into an orphanage after her family dies, but it was like interesting premise.
Doesn't Superman have parents who have an empty house?
I think at this point the Kents maybe were dead in the comics continuity.
Okay.
I
he
can't
killed
remember.
them so that people didn't connect him as Superman.
I don't know. I don't understand. But anyway, written by the folks who do Giant Days.
John Allison.
And it's about two people who discover a portal into like a spooky alternate dimension.
Right.
The dialogue's good. The premise is interesting. The story is not.
Okay.
So
when I saw this and who it was connected by, I was hoping it was like a spin-off of Giant Days because one of the characters starts staying up super late and starts seeing that like night world has a whole different vibe than regular, and everybody's always like, night be with you, and it's hilarious. And I was hoping maybe this was like but this isn't. This has nothing to do with Giant Days?
No.
Okay.
Not that. I mean, I've only read volume 1 of Giant Days, so if there was a crossover character, I didn't catch it.
All right.
This is probably not something that I would check out again.
Yeah.
I got this as a freebie from the folks over at Boom at the ALA convention. So,
sorry, Boom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Boom, though.
Yep.
Boom Studios sent me a whole bunch of graphic novels to give away during a charity stream I'm doing.
They did.
So.
Would you like to talk more about your charity stream? While you're
I can do it at the end.
Okay.
Or when we get closer to the charity stream, I suppose.
All right. So I finished that. And now I'm currently reading Trunk Music by Michael Connolly. This is a Harry Bosch book. And I like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that how you're going to do reviews from now on?
Maybe. Or I sing it a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you see any movies?
Did I see any movies?
Yeah.
Yes, Eric, I did. Thank you for asking me.
No problem.
I saw the film Dumbo by a new filmmaker named Timothy Burton.
No.
No?
No, he's not new.
Oh.
Nor does that really work.
Oh, okay.
Everybody knows who
He's
he
been
is.
around for a long time.
Yes.
Tim Burton's Dumbo, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you shouldn't. Now it made it sound like you called Tim Burton Dumbo.
No, I didn't. I saw Dumbo. I love the classic Disney Dumbo. I love Michael Keaton.
Do you really? You like the original Dumbo?
I do. I always have.
There's not a lot. Okay, go on.
It's short. It's like 60 minutes. It's very short. Yeah. This one, I don't know. My wife and I were kind of stumped by it when we left because I think Keaton is great. I think Danny DeVito is very good. And they both kind of like play with the personas that you kind of expect from them. Neither one of them is just kind of doing a straight, like there's Michael Keaton being Michael Keaton-y. They have elements of that. So you get to like Keaton shows up and it's the first scene with him is just great. Like it was worth it just for that. But then they kind of like twist it for both of them. They're not doing a straight take. Colin Farrell plays a character who his wife had died and he comes back from the war.
Is he like Timothy Mouse? The Timothy Mouse character?
Kind of.
Yeah.
He comes back missing an arm. He's got 2 kids, and they're like, well, you can't really do your act anymore, so you're just going to take care of the elephants. All right.
Water
so that's sort
elephants,
of yeah. So that's kind of what happens. And then the little circus kind of gets big, and then it goes on to a bigger thing, and it never quite solidifies into what you want. Like it's not boring, but it's just a shade above boring at times. It feels long. It doesn't really feel like. It's not really like fantastical. It's not really creepy. You think like Tim Burton doing the pink elephant scene is like, of course, it's a natural.
Right.
And it was just so underwhelming. So I don't know. I think I enjoyed it. There are lots of things about it that I liked. But it definitely didn't deliver on the level that I wanted it to.
Poor Dumbo.
I don't know that like kids would be particularly interested in it because
there's kids like anymore.
There's not really enough Dumbo.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that they set up, like the dad not being able to do his horse riding show, It never really goes anywhere. There's a lot of things like that where you think, oh, this is going to pay off, and then it doesn't.
Right.
So,
all right.
I don't know.
Sorry, man.
And then I stumbled on an album.
Okay.
Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. That's not what it's called?
That is what it's called.
That is what it's called.
Sorry,
okay,
I was just
you
staring
gave
at
me
you
a crazy look. So I have been historically not a Pink Floyd fan, but I stumbled on this pile of records at a Goodwill, and it just had crazy stuff. So I got a bunch of it for 99 cents, including 3 Pink Floyd albums, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give it a listen. I listened to the whole thing, and I loved it. I don't think it's one that would work so well just like picking out sections. I feel like it's best served just to like sit down and listen to it as an album. Would you agree?
Wish You Were Here is probably the most. I mean, it is a single. You hear it on the radio. That's probably like
the track. The track. Yes.
Yeah, you definitely couldn't just listen to "Shine On You Crazy Diamond."
Right.
And just that's it.
Yeah.
So especially because it resolves later.
But I think as a whole, if you look at it as one piece of work, I was really impressed with it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's all. How does that rate in your Pink Floyd?
Wish You Were Here was my favorite one.
Really?
And still might be, but that's because the question is there because at first I didn't really like Dark Side of the Moon, but it hit one day and I was like, oh, Dark Side of the Moon is the best. So I don't know.
I also got The Wall and Animals. How do you think I'm going to feel about those?
The Wall's weird.
Okay.
I don't think you'll like The Wall.
Okay.
The Wall.
Well, I just couldn't pass it up.
Roger Waters starts taking more control of some stuff, and his style isn't so much like Wish You Were Here.
Okay.
And when he's like in full control. Yeah, The Wall's weird. The Wall's long, but it has Comfortably Numb, which is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Okay.
So,
anyway, it made me a fan of that album.
Yeah. That's good. Animals is a little bit more political.
Oh.
So but there's some good stuff in it.
Okay.
So they use when I saw Roger Waters live, there's a lot more Animals material in there than I thought. So
interesting.
But yeah, Wish You Were Here. Great album.
Okay.
So,
would you like to turn it over to some talk about some Hugo Awards?
yeah, that is where we are. Sorry, yeah.
Let's do it. So before we get to talking to Martha Wells, we're going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that were nominated this year. So why don't you kick us off, Eric? Why don't you tell us some of the things?
Where?
HugoAwards.org?
No, I know. What should we start with?
I don't know. Whatever you like. Let's save Best Novel for last.
All right, we are at the HugoAwards.org.
Mm-hmm.
The nominations come out, which means the winners are picked around August. And as Nick said, we'll get more in depth. So this is probably more of a what am I trying to say? A list.
Just a brief overview in case any of these things sound interesting. You want to pick them up before the awards drop.
So you got Best Short Story, The Court Magician by Sarah Pinsker, The Rose McGregor Drinking and Admiration Society by T. Kingfisher. You got The Secret Lives of the Nine Negro Teeth of George Washington by P. Djali Clark. You got Stet by Sarah Gailey. The Tale of the Three Beautiful Raptor Sisters and the Prince Who Was Made of Meat by Brooke Boland. Man,
aren't we all made of meat, though,
Yeah,
when you think about it?
you don't want to be 100% meat
That's
if
true.
you're hanging out with Raptor
Cholesterol,
sisters.
I think, would be.
I want to know, are these Raptor sisters birds of prey sisters or like Velociraptor sisters?
That does change things.
That changes that
does
changes how
change
interested
things.
I am.
Yes,
in
it does.
A Witch's Guide to Escape, a practical compendium of portal fantasies by Alex E. Harrow. So those are the best short stories. A lot of them get printed in magazines or
quite often you can find the short stories for free online.
Yep, they can be online. Best Novelette, which is just a little bit longer than short stories, but still shorter than a novella. I almost said novella.
You did.
Anyway, If at First You Don't Succeed, Try Again by Zhen Chao. The Last Banquet of Temporal Confections by Tina Connolly. 9 Last Days on Planet Earth by Daryl Gregory. The Only Harmless Great Thing by Brooke Bolander. The Thing About Ghost Stories by Naomi Kritzer. And When We Were Starless by Simone Heller. Simone.
Okay. Would you like me to do novella?
Sure.
Best novella. Longer than a novelette. Shorter than a novel. And these include our today's guest, Martha Wells, for Artificial Condition, which is book 2. Book 3.
Yeah.
Book 3 of Murderbot. So congratulations on that. Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon McGuire. Binti, The Night Masquerade by Nendi Okafor. The Black God's Drums by T. Jelly Clark. God's Monsters and the Lucky Peach by Kelly Robson. The Tea Monster and the Detective by Alette.
Tea Master.
You're right. A Tea Monster sounds more fun. Tea Master and the Detective by Alette Bedard.
Okay.
Best novel?
Yeah. Best novel. Here we go. The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Coel. Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. Revenant Gun by Yoon-Ha Lee. Space Opera by Catherine M. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak. This is the young adult book that is the sequel to Uprooted, which won the Nebula. Okay. Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. There you go.
Okay. Artificial Condition is book 2 in the Murderbot series, not book 3.
I am
book
a
2.
Dang fool.
This is really more like your wheelhouse than mine.
Thanks,
so
man.
maybe you'll differ on this. But there was very few that I recognized in here.
Let's see.
I don't know if that stood out to
Mary
you. If this was
Romanek
kind
Kowal
of
has been in the game for quite a while.
Okay.
Naomi Novak, as I said, won for the Nebula for her first book last year. I forget if Spinning Silver won. I'll have to check it.
Spinning Silver, I know, was up for a Goodreads Choice Awards.
That was it. You're right. Yes. Martha Wells, who we interviewed, has been here for quite some time as well. Has many different series, as we'll talk about. So no, there's some names in here.
I was kind of disappointed with the graphic novel section because it just seems like every year, Monstrous, Paper Girls, Saga. That's just like the next volume is nominated, and it's like, okay, but I think we've covered this pretty extensively over the last several years.
That's the problem with giving a what's the right word? Serialized, maybe?
Yeah.
Monthly thing like that. Yeah. Eventually you're gonna.
And I was actually pretty disappointed with the Best Dramatic Short Form because Star Trek Discovery got nothing.
Yeah, sorry, man.
And 2 episodes of The Good Place got stuff.
Yeah.
2 episodes of Doctor Who. And there was some great sci-fi in Star Trek Discovery, the first season, which would have been eligible for these awards. So, I don't know. Some of the things were a little puzzling about it, but we'll get into that a little bit more when we do a special spotlight.
The
on this year's
movies
Hugos.
That are nominated are Annihilation, Avengers
that's
Infinity
good.
War, Black Panther, A Quiet Place, Sorry to Bother You, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I have not seen Sorry to Bother You. Have
Me
you?
either. I didn't realize that was sci-fi.
Based on these, like right now, I would give it to Annihilation.
Yeah.
I think that's
I mean, I think that is the most sci-fi of it, but I don't know. Black Panthers win lots of awards, so.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel particularly sci-fi to me, but
No, Wakanda's pretty
I
sci-fi.
know.
It's the
I guess
Afrofuturism.
yeah. I guess Annihilation is maybe just more traditional
Yeah.
as far as like the themes.
So maybe it won't win because of that. Yeah.
That's true.
I don't know why Avengers Infinity War is on here, so.
Well, I mean they're in space a lot of the time.
I don't know. Every time I see an Avengers movie, I'm like, that's not going to win.
I know. I feel the same way.
So,
Oh well.
I guess there had to be other better movies than Avengers. Then I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I thought the whole list was a little odd this year,
Yeah.
but maybe I'll feel differently when I do a little more digging.
You know what
into
they
it.
say?
No, I don't.
Oh,
You're not sure either.
no,
I was
hoping.
I was supposed
hoping
to know.
you would have
You really
the
gambled.
answer to what they say.
You are embarrassing me in front of Martha Wells. And on that note, let's do it.
We're going right into the
I think
interview.
we should. Let's
we
play.
always do that.
Yeah, I know. I always give you.
You always say let's go,
Yeah.
but on the stream,
Yeah.
there's a few things I have to do first.
Yeah, I guess I was just saying that more for the podcast.
And normally we do like an introduction.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, all right. Well, take us in. Take us in.
Okay.
Let's
We
do it.
interviewed Martha Wells, multi-award winning and nominated. I found her because we got the Murderbot Diaries, which had also been up for some awards, and so I read through those. Those are 4 books, about 200 pages each, so they're very quick reads. But I really like them, so we reached out to Martha Wells herself and asked if she would give us an interview on that, because they're an interesting new series and they're novellas, and we haven't really interviewed anyone who's written novellas before.
Yeah.
So,
Well, she just has such a diverse back catalog. I mean,
Yes.
when you look at
yeah, she has a lot of different fantasy and sci-fi
Yeah.
books that we didn't even talk about in the interview.
no, we didn't dig into them very much. So,
Has written Stargate Atlantis.
She has. Yep.
Tie-ins,
Couple of Stargate
Star Wars.
Atlantis, so Star Wars, and that's where I first became familiar with her work because
Razor's Edge.
the old before Disney took over. We covered this a little bit in the interview, but they were setting out to have a top tier big name sci-fi author do a Star Wars book, and they only
Right.
got through 2 before Disney took over. So I'd read the Han Solo one, and then more recently read Martha Wells' Razor's Edge here.
Right.
So that was how I initially knew her, and then I kind of dug in a little bit more. And of course, we've talked about her due to her Hugo nominations, her Nebula nominations, her Hugo Award. So we've talked about her quite a bit. So it was interesting to read a little bit more, and then of course to sit down and chat with her.
Yeah.
So
All right, now we can do the interview.
okay.
And now we're turning it on here. Turning on the interview. What's it gonna say when we hit that?
So you'll have to listen to the podcast to hear the sweet author spotlight music.
Diaries, which I've talked about, and Nick has read. All right, everybody, we are here with author Martha Wells, and we got a couple of questions for her. We're going to be talking mainly about the Murderbot Diaries, which I've talked about, and Nick has read last week even.
Yeah.
So we just have a few questions. We'll go for there. Nick and I were both wondering about this question, where you. Murderbot, or Rin, as they're sometimes called, is a very apprehensive character, has a very doesn't want to get involved attitude. And I'm wondering what's the challenge there to actually get the character involved and engaging with the plot of the book when really they're over it, and Murderbot himself, or itself, would rather just sit and watch television.
Well, it's usually I have to give Murderbot something it absolutely has to do.
Right.
Especially in the first book, or not the first book, the Artificial Condition, when it's basically free and it could do whatever it wants.
Right.
It has decided before it can kind of move on, it has to find out what actually happened to it in the past.
Right.
So it's just a matter of giving it motivations that are realistic for the character. I think in later books, there's one, in the Rogue Protocol, which is the next book, or the next novella, it has to it needs to help Dr. Mensah with something that it feels like again, if it does that, it can close that chapter of its life.
Right.
So it's basically just about giving it motivations that fit with the character.
Sure. Does that mean the first book was easier to write than maybe the middle two?
Yes, it was. I'm not really sure why. The first book I wrote it, it's a novella, so it's under 40,000 words.
Right.
I think it took me about a month to write it, which is pretty good for me. I thought the others would be about that quick,
right.
and they each took 3 or 4 times as long.
Oh, wow.
Part of the problem is the character's perspective is so complicated when its ability to see from security cameras and
right.
to get in different systems. So you really have to take all that information into account.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes action scenes a lot more complicated.
Right. Well, then that actually leads into a question I have about writing novellas versus novels. What's the biggest difference here for some of our listeners who maybe aren't so familiar with novellas? What's the difference for you for writing them? Why did you choose to do that for Murderbot? And does that affect maybe making Murderbot a series versus a standalone?
Well, a novella is basically around 30 to 40,000 words, which is about 1/3 to 1/4 at the size of a normal book.
Right. I think the copies we have in our collection are about 200 pages.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. Novellas have been in science fiction and fantasy has been a form for a long time.
Right,
they
absolutely.
kind of went out of fashion for a while because they were expensive to produce. But once ebooks started up, they kind of started up again. And actually, the publisher, Tor.com, does some novel-length work, but primarily it's a novella publisher. The reason I did Murderbot that way was because it was originally going to be a short story. It was going to be a short story with a sad ending.
Okay.
I was writing it, it really started to feel like this needs more. This needs a longer length. It needs, it needed more story there, and so a novella length was pretty perfect for it. I didn't originally think about doing it as a series until the publisher they wanted 2, and I was like, I really enjoy writing this, so I really did do another one. And then I ended up doing 4, and I'm actually doing a novel now for the series. The difference is you kind of have to control your subplots. In a novel, you have a lot more time to kind of bring in a lot of different detail and explore a lot of different avenues. And with a novella, you kind of really have to keep to your main plot to a large extent.
Sure. I wanted to sort of circle back to something we were talking about earlier, and that's just sort of the personification, the character of Murderbot. And when I picked it up, I was instantly hooked by Murderbot's kind of bad attitude. I thought that was a clever way to make the story feel really fresh and make that character just compelling and very readable. I wanted to know what it was going to do next, and I enjoyed its kind of commentary on sitting back and watching like people be stupid, and and I just wondered, as a writer, what is that process like? Is it fun? Is it fun for you to write somebody who has kind of a chip on their shoulder? Is it an interesting exercise?
Yeah, it really is fun. It's just basically, I usually, in my other books, I've written in the third person a lot. With Murderbot, it really started where every kind of mean or sarcastic thing I thought of, instead of trying to suppress it, I just put it on the page. Yeah. From that character's perspective, and that was a lot of fun. It's very cathartic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, I really, like I said, I kind of related to that character, so I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I have a bad attitude. Yeah. Maybe. But sticking with the character, so Eric read these quite a while ago, and I'm newer to this series. And as we were discussing it, just the two of us, I kept referring to Murderbot as a she. And Eric kept saying he, and then we were like, well, did one of us read this wrong? What is it? So we looked it up, and of course, it's without gender. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. Was that just sort of a necessity because it's a partially robotic character, or did you have a specific thought in mind about doing that, sort of taking gender away from it?
Well, as I first started writing it, it started to seem like it was just natural and logical for a character that was a constructed life form that was not actually intended to be anything but, do this one task, that it wouldn't have a gender. And when I got into the part of the story where it was talking about the comfort units,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a real issue in realizing that it's pure luck that it was meant for security and not for this.
Right.
And so it has kind of a real, almost a real fear of being put in that position.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why it's very comfortable with not having any kind of sexuality, not having any kind of gender.
Mm-hmm. So from your standpoint as the writer, does that present certain challenges? Have you found you got to a spot and you really have to sort of lean in one direction or the other, or is it just just work for the character and so it's not an issue for you?
It's really not an issue. You just kind of have to. I've been writing for a long time, so I'm fairly used to trying to imagine, completely different physicalities and completely
Sure.
different mental systems. So it really wasn't a problem.
Okay. In terms of the other the robots in this other story, like Art and Mickey, I'm interested in what it's like to write them, because the general premise of Murderbot is that they are free to do their own thing. They've got rid of their blockade, so now they can just be themselves, basically. But Murderbot still interacts with other robots who aren't free, but you still end up giving characters like Art and Mickey personalities, and I just wonder, like, how do you do that with the restrictions that those characters still have?
Well, Art doesn't really have a lot of restrictions. I'm not sure Murderbot completely understands that when it's interacting with Art. Art is basically like HAL 9000, except not completely homicidal.
Right.
Or the impression of HAL 9000. I think the character in the book was actually different. But
Right.
so it's a very, very powerful entity. Basically, Mickey is more like the conventional idea of what a companion robot would be like.
Right.
Which stands out very dramatically in this world because so many of the bots are not treated like that or are not viewed that way. And also Mickey comes kind of from outside the corporation rim, which is kind of the other territories out there, which you don't really, or the reader doesn't, and Murderbot doesn't really know anything about at this point.
Right. I found with like Art and Mickey, there's almost like a dog sense of loyalty and sense of purpose in them.
It is. They do have I wouldn't call it necessarily dog-like, but they do
Right.
have a sense of purpose, and this is kind of a thing that makes them different from humans.
Mm-hmm.
Their purpose is ingrained in their existence.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, sometimes humans have to kind of find a purpose for themselves.
Right.
They're basically created or born with this purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked me at one point, is caring about people, is them caring about people programming, or is it real? And it's sort of, well, it's when it's part of your existence, it's how you're created.
Right.
That's real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I go into a bit in the books is how different their existence is from human existence.
Right. Well, I guess on that, is Murderbot's bad attitude, I guess, maybe part of they're a robot now without a purpose. They have to make their own purpose and find their own purpose. And so all these other robots it meets are seem so much happier and fulfilled, and because they have one, and now Murderbot doesn't. Was that an idea you were using?
Yeah. Also, Murderbot is partly bot and partly human,
Right.
which is what causes most of its problems.
Yes.
And it's designed for a specific purpose, but with all the constraints on it,
Mm-hmm.
it was not really able to do that purpose effectively.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the things is when it gets free, one of the things it feels compelled to do is the security work, but doing it in a much more effective way than it was able to do it when it was basically, an enslaved being that had to do exactly what it was told, as opposed to and try to, do its job under those constraints when it's actually a lot more effective when it's free.
Right.
Well, I know outside of Murderbot, you have quite a few other series and things that you're working on, a lot of short stories and a couple different novel series. I wanted to ask, what is the difference between when you're doing something that is part of your own, just coming out of your own imagination, where you have this complete freedom to explore worlds and characters and that sort of thing? How does that differ from when you're working in something like, an established series? Like, I know you've done a couple of Stargates, you've done a Star Wars. How does that differ from when you just sort of have your own, sandbox to play in?
I think it's harder to work in someone else's established series because you try to get things right, and that often, like, there can be a huge volume of material that you have to work with. Um, it depends on if it's a created fantasy series or if it's partially based in the real world. That can be more difficult because you have to do a lot of real world, research on these real world, and also the fantasy aspects that people have already established. You have to try to get the characterization right. You have to try, if it's something where it's a TV or movie, you have to try to get the voices right. Then usually the actors have a lot to do with that. You have to try to convey those performances in prose. So it's actually a lot harder than your original world, where you can basically do whatever you want.
My book club just finished doing Razor's Edge, your Star Wars books, and I thought that you did a really nice job of capturing Leia in particular. And I wondered, I know that was the beginning of the publisher was getting some bigger name sci-fi authors to work on that, and then when the whole Disney thing that kind of stopped afterwards, and I wondered, was that something that they reached out to you and asked if you wanted to write Star Wars, or was it something that you were looking into, or how did that come about?
Yes, they reached out to me through my agent. Okay. I had, I think they were trying to do basically a Star Wars series where different science fiction writers would do each one, and it was going to be me and James S.A. Corey did the second one.
Yeah, I read his Han Solo.
And I think there were some others planned, but they only. But yeah, it got stopped before it really got started, basically.
Yeah. Did you choose a Leia focus, or was that what they approached you for?
No, they asked me for a Leia book, and originally I think it was just going to be just Leia, and then they changed their mind a bit and decided they wanted the whole group in each story, or but it would focus on one particular character more.
Well, that's all the questions we have. You've been very generous with your time this morning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking me. I enjoyed it.
Got your whole Murderbot collection at our library, and I've enjoyed reading through those. And I'm hoping some of our listeners are going to now pick them up for the first time. And are there any other books? If somebody had just picked up your Murderbot series for the first time, is there one of your other books you might direct them to? I know you said you're doing a Murderbot novel soon.
Yeah, the Murderbot novel is going to be called Network Effect, and it will come out next year in May.
Okay.
The series I have that's complete now, well, all my other series are complete, but this recent one it starts with the Cloud Roads.
Okay.
It's a 5-book fantasy series with 2 books of novellas and short stories. And it's all available now in either hardback or trade paperback and ebook and audiobook, except for the last one. The last one isn't out in the audiobook yet. It's going to be re-released in trade or in mass market paperback. First, at least starting in this November, so it'll be much easier to find in paperback. But it's all out there in ebooks. So.
All right. Well, thank you again for doing this. It's been a lot of fun asking you these questions.
Well, thank you.
Look, maybe I need to touch up that ending.
I think so.
You're so judgy.
No. Are we? I don't think this is.
What?
Okay.
It's on.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
It just turned you down.
Rude.
No, you're back.
Okay.
You're fine. Relax. Anyway.
We're ready to slide back in with the podcast now? No?
Different verb. Sorry, what? It's gross. Here we go. All right, we're back.
Thanks again to our guest, Martha Wells, for taking the time to sit down and chat with us. And just a reminder, her book, Artificial Condition, which is book 2 of 4 in the Murderbot Diaries novellas, is up for both a Hugo Award, which those awards will be announced in August, and a Nebula Award, and those will be announced next month. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more next month when that happens.
Yay.
The new book, The Network Effect, which is a full-length Murderbot novel, will be coming out, as she said, next year.
Also, they're going to be collecting, I'm not sure when, but they're going to be collecting the 4 Murderbot novellas into one.
Oh, okay. So. Great. Well, in the meantime, we have quite a large selection of Martha Wells' work right here at the David A. Howe Public Library, and all the others, of course, available throughout our system. So if you'd like to read any or all of these, we can hook you up. Any library news that you want to talk about before we close up shop?
News. We're collecting photos now for the Teen Photo Show. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the week. Bring in your photos then, you teens, you... What's the speech? I shouldn't reference things. I just don't know. The
I
speech.
don't
Give
know.
me your. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to reference the Statue of Liberty.
The statue, that I don't think that doesn't seem applicable
Okay, well,
or appropriate if we're being honest.
all right, bring me your photos.
All right, we got a couple of concerts coming up. We have the End of Our Ecumenical Choir, who's going to be here doing their Lenten concert. That's on the 12th. And then we have a returning group, the Sorrow Estate.
Right.
That's going to be later in April. Next month,
Yeah, you know
we
what?
have
I bought a house last week, but
it's
unfortunately,
a non sequitur.
it's a Sorrow Estate.
Okay.
It's pretty rough go.
Well, thank you for that.
No problem. That's for free.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So Sorrow Estate's coming next later in the month, and then next month we have a special theatrical performance of Treasure Island, a 2-person take on Treasure Island. So Eric and Jessica and I are going to be
in it.
No,
No.
but we're going to be reading Treasure Island, doing a special spotlight on it because none of us have read it.
Would you want to be Captain Hook or Jim?
Captain Long John Silver, you mean?
Yeah. That's what I meant, Silver.
Yeah, I think I go Silver now.
Okay.
I think I've aged out of Jim. You could pull Jim.
Thank you.
Shave that beard.
Yeah.
Pop your voice up just a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Boy, it's my first time on a ship there, sir.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
I've not read the book, though I have read the anime or the illustrated classic.
I have seen Muppet Treasure
I have
Island.
seen Muppet Treasure Island many a time.
I've seen Treasure Planet.
Yeah, I have too.
Not great.
Yeah, it's
The Goo Goo Dolls are in it.
They do. Yeah, they do have a great song in there. So that's going to do it for that. The book clubs are currently reading Big Little Lies, which is the last of our Endless Winter book club for the year. And
Boy, this is the first time I've told a lie this big.
yeah, you're really selling it. The Sci-Fi book club is currently reading Artemis by Andy Weir.
Yeah.
And that is not until the 30th, so you have plenty of time to read that book
Yeah.
and join us for a fun chat on Andy Weir's
It'll be
Artemis.
a fun chat.
And I think that's going to do it for this week. Thanks again to Martha Wells, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
How you doing?
Oh,
No,
all
I don't
right.
think so.
Thank you.
I don't think so. We got some internal sloppiness, but the magic of editing will make that all go away.
What's that supposed to mean?
Is that right? The internal sloppiness that we had?
Which one was that?
Where the ending kind of cut off of the interview, and
Oh, yeah.
we had sort of a brrr moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
I'm just trying to own it. That's all.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about Pac-Man or
Not
You
particularly.
don't
There's
want
not
to.
much. I mean, I think you'd like it.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I watched a streamer I watch, Monkey of Evil. He was the one who I saw playing it for the first time.
Okay.
And I had no clue what was going on when I was playing. But as soon as you are Pac-Man, it all just makes
It
sense.
just makes sense.
Yeah. So,
It just makes sense. Period.
Yeah. I hit
Do you
3
remember
million.
the old? Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Is that a?
I don't know. I mean, it's. I think
mean,
people
it certainly sounds.
people have
impressive.
cheated the system score-wise.
Oh.
So I'm at like 230 on the global rankings now. But Monkey of Evil, the one I was chasing, he has 36 million. So I'm after his score. But I hit 31 million very early in my stream.
Okay.
And then I couldn't get past 28 million for the rest of the day. And that was driving me crazy. I was like, what did I do right?
Okay.
So I found a new strategy, though. I found a new way to eat the chain of ghosts and then hit the next thing so that I can stay in the combo longer. So, yeah.
Good times.
Huh.
I loved the Pac-Man animated series from the 80s.
I watched the
Hanna-Barbera.
Christmas one.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
That was a pretty
So.
fun time.
Your son, I got the game mainly because I was like, oh, I'm babysitting. This
Yeah.
might be a good time crunch. And he was entertained for the most part. I did the 5-minute time attacks. And he was entertained until I had no new courses to show him. Because each new level, I was like, look at this. This is like a Lego.
Oh, yeah.
This one's in the dark. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. And then once I ran out, he's like, can we stop? So,
And then the next day, he asked me if I'd ever played the game where a fortune cookie eats ghosts.
yeah.
And I was
Pretty-
like,
yeah.
yes, I have. And that is Pac-Man you're
Yeah,
describing.
yeah. It's pretty. I never really thought of him looking like a fortune cookie.
Me neither,
But through the
but
eyes of a
I
child.
can't unsee it now.
So,
All right. Well,
I watched the I watched the first episode of the Minecraft Telltale story mode.
yes.
It's still interactive on TV.
Okay.
You can still. So I would ask because I was babysitting your
TV
kid. Yeah.
of the future.
Yeah. I'd ask him, I was like, what should we say? And so I kind of picked up on he's gonna say the thing I sound most excited for.
Oh.
So if I'm like, should we say let's be friends or you're gonna pay? He's gonna say you're gonna pay. So I started sounding more excited for the more peaceful situation.
I see.
So
manipulating.
yeah,
You're using
he
open manipulation.
He was shocked every time a new monster showed up. He's like, oh no. This is bad.
Yeah.
So he told me how those things are very hard to kill. There were octopuses that shoot fire. He was talking about the Nether, and how that's a dangerous place.
It's a scary town.
They go into the Nether. He's like, oh no, they're gonna get stuck there. So it's just funny watching something like this that I just don't understand. But like this is new for me to watch like something like at this level that I just have no clue about. Yeah. And he's just like, telling me all about it. I'm like, wow, this does sound scary. This does also sound intense if you're a child.
Absolutely.
So Patton Oswalt does the voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
that's a good fit.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, you were going to talk a little bit about your charity stream. You want to do that now?
The charity stream for the Hobo Nation starts April 20th at, I can't remember what time, but that's when it starts. If you miss when it starts, it's going for a week. Ooh. So it'll go from the 20th to the 27th. I've got a few dates in there. Myself, it's to earn money for DePaul International to help homelessness and help people just get back on their feet.
That's
maybe
great.
help them get bus fare so they can go to job interviews,
Excellent.
get showers. And we have some giveaways. I've got some stuff from Boom Studios and Overclocked Remix myself to give away, so it will be a fun time.
So how do you know who gets the giveaways?
We'll just have the list. We haven't entirely figured out the whole thing. So usually they're just like every couple of minutes we'll do a raffle. Huh, so we've got so many CDs and books now. We can just we have like the Women of WWE. The Evolution or something. I don't know.
My brother would be all about that.
Yeah. And we got like a cool Planet of the Apes omnibus.
That's cool.
We got a Bill and Ted Save the Universe.
I want to read that Planet of the Apes.
Well, maybe you should donate some money and maybe that can be yours. Yeah.
Maybe I will.
Though, maybe you'll read it and be like, ugh, this would be great as a friend gift because then I could throw it in the garbage.
Huh, maybe.
I don't know why I made you sound like a yacht club owner
does.
there. Yeah.
No one does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Janice, have you read the new Planet of the Apes omnibus? It's as big as my yacht, but less useful.
Big as my yacht.
I'd rather use it as an anchor. This book.
Yep.
Look, I'm out of steam.
Yeah, you are floundering, my friend. You are floundering.
You vamp.
No, we're done.
Okay.
We're done. Close up shop.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Stop streaming?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I'm just going to hit it then, and we're just going to be done.
I think so. I think best.
Have you said everything?
I have.
That you need to say?
I have.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.